Hey. So I'm just doing a little bit of design work here, and it suddenly occurred to me that maybe a couple of the hints and tips of things that I was doing might be useful to people. So I'm just going to record a bit every now and again and drop it into the group, and you can follow along with a little bit of design work. So what I'm wanting to do here is to change some of the name placeholders because I didn't like the original ones I had, so I'm quite happy with the ones I've got on this scene. So we'll move to a couple of other scenes where we can see where these have been put in. So I've got slightly different versions. So I have a longer version for when I do my intro. So it's like an intro scene for a host and two guests. And then once I've done my intro and I go to other scenes, I just want a shorter version because I don't need the full length placeholder on every scene. It gets a bit busy, especially when we start to get to some scenes that are a bit like this. If I had the full name going across it, it would be a bit too much. So as I go through these scenes, you'll see that I have changed them from originally having a sort of a big name on to having the smaller name. So I've got my big name with giant text going on there, and that's what I don't like. I want to change it to be something that looks more like this. So in order to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my names folder from this scene here, because that's what I'm going to do, is copy that and then jump down into the scene that I want to change. And I'm going to get rid of my existing names folder. So this is the names folder for the big chunky names. That's going in the bin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in my new names folder that I just made a copy of and drop it in. Now they're all in the wrong place at the moment. Let me just take these two items. There's a lot of moving things about on this, so I'm going to grab those two and move them to the top, just so that the names appear in the right order within my list of overlays. So I always want my names sitting above the cameras. But as you can see, they're kind of all over the place at the moment. And in fact, I might move those back down again so I can see the other placeholder names. So I will do. I'll move them back in a minute, but for the moment I'm going to take those and just move them to the bottom here, just so as I can see all of my names in here. So what I want to do is move these around because they're obviously in the wrong places. So in order to do that, what I want to do is create myself a new folder. So we'll leave it titled new group because that's fine. And then I'm going to grab the items that I want to move together. So in this case, Martin and a rectangle, and I'm going to drop them into that grouped folder. If I then hit the link button on that grouped folder, I know that those two items are going to move around together. So if I go and grab my box, which is a very light, subtle box here, and drag it up the way and to the left, I can see my guiding lines, and I now know that is in the correct place, if indeed that is the size and shape that I want it to be. So in this case, I think I want it to be a bit smaller, but we'll maybe come back and show you how to do that in a minute, because let me just continue with the principle of moving these things around, because that's what I wanted to show you in the first place. So I'm going to take those two items that I've just moved around, and I'll put them back where I picked them up from. I'm going to go back to Sheena here. I'm going to take those and grab them and drop them into that group. They're linked together, so I know that I can grab the box. Now I want to grab the box because the box will move in line with the edge of everything else. Whereas if I grab the name, which I'll do in a minute, you'll see it won't quite do the correct thing. So following the same procedure, I'm going to take those two and put them back in the correct order. Then I'm going to pick up the grace elements and go put those back up into the folder here. And this time I'm going to grab just the text name, just so you can see the difference. If I grab the name, it still moves both the items together. So it's moving the items together, but it's trying to line up the name with Sheena above it there. And if you look very closely in the bottom edge over there, that way, yeah, at the bottom edge, you'll see that that is hanging over the edge there, that box, and it's not wanting to jump to the right place. So by grabbing the box rather than the name part of the placeholder, it's going to line up the boxes with the box above it. So that's how you move things around in groups if that's what you want to do. And again, what I would do is grab those two and I would move them back to where I wanted them to be in order, and I will then move back up my screen share to the right place and back up to the top my viewer name and placeholder. So I've accidentally got them in this folder. I don't want them in that folder. Let's move it out that folder, and then I can get rid of the folder. So that is just a way of moving things around with using folders and grouping them. So I thought that might be useful for some people. What I actually think I'm going to do is make everything just a little bit smaller. So I'm going to pause the video for a second while I do that, because it's a little bit boring, but I think all of that just looks a little bit too big, so I'm going to make them smaller. Hang around and see the results. Okay, so I made everything look a little bit smaller, so I think it just looks a bit more fitting to the size of the box. So unfortunately I'm going to change name placeholder sizes all over the shop when I'm doing my designs, because I don't want them to all be too big for the size of the camera placeholder. So I'm going to make it a little bit smaller in this case. So if I was doing that, as I have just done, rather than trying to reshape every box, what I actually do is follow a similar process to what I did with the folders before. So effectively this is my new design type, and I'm happy with that, and that's in my names folder, and it's just Martin at the moment, so I've totally deleted the other two. And what I'm going to do again, I'm going to add in another folder. So if I add in a folder just here, I can, doesn't matter where the screen shares go this time, because I can see the text available to me. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the Martin ones, which I'm happy with in terms of styling, and make a copy, Command C, and I'm going to go up to my new group and do Command V. So I've now got Martin sitting over Martin, which is why it's looking super bright at the moment. So if I lock those two items together, then I know that what I can go do is grab that box when the little hand comes up, and I have got a copy of Martin, and it sits nicely in there. And what I can do now is change that text for Martin. So we'll go in and change that to Sheena. And I have Sheena in there. Now, Sheena's name is slightly longer in terms of text, so I might want to move that a little as well. So I would need to ungroup things here, because otherwise it's going to grab that and move two objects at once. So if I move that to the left slightly, or to the right slightly, I think that's going to fit a bit better in the box around it. In fact, I want to nudge it a little bit that way. There we go. I've got a line in the centre of Martin, line in the centre of Sheena. So that works a little bit better. So what I can do now, same principle as before. I can take those two items now, because I'm now happy with them, and put them into my final names folder. I can come back up to the groups area, do a Command V again, because I know that the Martin version was already in there. I can link that group, and I can go grab Martin here. As soon as the hand pops up, and I know I've got a linked group, so I'm good to go. And that should be me done down there as well. So the box is there, Martin's there, and all I need to do now is go and change that text to my guest number 2, who is Grace. And then that's me done potentially on that scene. So I have resized everything and copied the names from elsewhere, all using this folder technique. And let's just do the final tidy up. We'll take Grace's name and drop it down to the guest 3 position. We'll come and lock all of those different text elements and the box, and then we'll go hide that group as well, the new potential folder, which was just me using it as a temporary basis. So there I've got a nice looking scene going on. I guess what I should really do, and I always forget to do this, is scroll back out totally and come back into I'll come back out of live demo mode, and now you can see the final result. So that's just a quick tip on how to use folders to group things and move them around. Hope it's been useful for you. I'll drop a few more in as I go through the design process. At least that's the plan. See you later. Cheerio.